testing 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 喂，大家好。
Members, just gone 2:30. We have attained the quorum. This is the subcommittee to study the implementation of free kindergarten education and the panel on education. And I call the meeting to order. Item 1, confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. The minutes of the meeting held on October 27th was made available. We have received no proposed amendments. Can I take the minutes as confirmed? All right, subject to further comments, the minutes are confirmed. Item 2, meeting with the administration and the Committee on Free Kindergarten Education. I'd like to invite the administration in, and I'd also like to welcome Mrs. Yip from the committee to join us. This is Betty Yip. The Secretariat has kindly put together the background brief. The Education Bureau has made available a paper. I'd like to welcome today Secretary for Education, Mr. Eddie Ng, Deputy Secretary for Education, Mrs. Michelle Wong, Vice Chairman of the Committee on Free Kindergarten Education, Mrs. Betty Ip, and also Principal Assistant Secretary. Without further ado, I'd like to invite the Secretary. Madam Chair, thank you. Members. To implement 3-year free kindergarten education is the priority for this term of administration. The Committee on Free KG Education was formed in April last year. It was tasked to look into all the different aspects regarding KG education with a view to submitting a report to the administration next year as to how free kindergarten education should be taken forward. The paper has been submitted to members. Perhaps I'd like to highlight a couple of salient points for members' interest. The committee is proactively looking at a number of subjects, including the policy of kindergarten education, the operating needs and services provided by half-day and whole-day KG education, the governance structure and the cooperation between the parents and teachers. We have been briefing or bringing LegCo up to date on the situation. We have done a lot of exchanges and communications to listen to the stakeholders. After a year or so's discussion, the committee has formulated preliminary ideas about the issues. And there is one point which is very clear, and that is the stakeholders would like to see a kindergarten policy that would ensure diversity and vibrancy and sustained development in the KG sector. I understand that the chairman and vice chairman have been busy meeting with various stakeholders, explaining the positions of or the preliminary ideas of the committee. Like, for instance, for half-day education, I would like to provide assistance to students between 3 and 6. However, we understand that there are some special needs for certain families, and special assistance should be offered to them. The committee is also of the view that eligible kindergartens should be given rental assistance subject to certain criteria, and there should be a ceiling imposed on the subsidy. The current ratio of 1 to 15 should be improved, according to the committee. The other subject is the remuneration of the KG teachers. The committee agrees that there should be competitive remuneration as well as good career ladder, and there should be professional training and development for the KG teachers in order to retain fine teachers. On controversial subjects, the committee would be prepared to listen more and look into the views of the consultants. Of concern to the sector is the issues like the mode of subsidy for kindergarten education. How can we make available subsidies or extra subsidies for whole day and long whole day kindergartens and meet the operational needs in this regard? And how should we formulate the career ladder, the remuneration, the rental assistance and the ceiling and so on? The committee has not made any decision in this regard for the time being. Over the past year, on different occasions, I have listened to views that in terms of financial implications, parental choice, and the development of kindergarten education, we have to strike a proper balance between all these different elements. I am convinced that under the leadership of the committee, the work will be taken forward and the report will be submitted to the government by the middle part of next year with all the recommendations. The Vice Chairman has taken time out of her schedule to join us for this meeting. I look forward to hearing views from members, and I'll be honestly delighted to take members' questions. Thank you. Thanks very much. Have you got a copy of your speech, Secretary, that can be made available to members? All right, I have on the list 5 members: Wong Kwok Heng, Teng Ka Piu, Tommy Cheung, Regina Ip, Kenneth Chen, Ann Cheung, Vice Chair. I propose 4 minutes each. There will be a second round. Please rest assured we will optimize the time available so that you would have a fair crack of the whip. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, please. Madam Chair, the Secretary referred to the progress, but there are many subjects for which no decision has been taken. Be that as it may, I'd like to put a number of questions to the Secretary regarding the way forward. The first one is, as alluded to by the Secretary, the half-day kindergartens. The support for half-day kindergartens would be very clear, but what about those long whole-day kindergartens? Would they be given a short shrift? Now, for long whole-day KGs, there are many working parents who are very concerned about the situation. When my kids were young, I experienced similar problems. If they attend half-day kindergartens, they would have to find places to leave the children with. And I think free kindergarten education should include the long whole-day kindergartens as well. If the government has a policy, in particular in relation to the working parents, both of them are at work. If the government has some basic policy in this regard, then I'm sure that there would be assistance given to the working parents, because this can be a problem area going forward. So I'd like to hear from the Secretary what the government's views are. Secretary? Thanks very much, Mr. Wong. This is an important point. That's why when I made the introductory remarks, I emphasized that at the very beginning, we will start off with subsidies for half-day kindergartens for kids between 3 and 6. but we recognize the fact that there is a demand for whole day and long whole day kindergartens, and we do need to give them some consideration, like extra subsidies. And we have to consider a whole host of other factors, like the manpower, the remuneration, the career path for the teachers, and the rental and physical accommodation and so on. All of these are factors that have to be taken into account. We do have 3 consultants that conducting the final phase of study, and very soon they will come with the findings. There is a study conducted on the rental, which can range from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. The other is manpower. There are kindergartens which accommodate a few dozen through to a few thousand. And the trade would like us to look at the manpower arrangement and the qualification requirement for half-day, whole-day, and long whole-day kindergarten. So an honourable member made the point, and these will be considered. And we will consider all these factors. Mr. Wong, thank you very much, Secretary, for the direct reply. The FTU would like the administration to pay particular attention to the long whole-day kindergartens, because there is a huge demand on the part of the working parents. Right. Let me put a question to the Committee on Free KG Education. Vice Chairman Mrs. Yip, would you care to respond? Madam Chair, thank you. Like what the paper indicated, the committee is of the view that the administration has to provide extra assistance for the kids to attend whole day or half day kindergarten education. Right? If the Secretary or Mrs. Yip would like to jump in, please give me a shout. Right, Mr. Tenkapiu? Madam Chair, I'm not a member of this committee, but since the report is taking shape, I am very concerned about it. As Mr. Wong said, I think we have to look at this policy from the poverty alleviation point of view. When you travel to the new towns where there are so many sandwiched households, and they have young kids to look after, and they are mired in poverty, now you are providing assistance to a half-day kindergarten, but not so much whole-day counterparts. Now, if you deduct the voucher scheme, people can still apply for the remission. Let's say a household of 4 earning $14,000. It's only at that level that they would be able to get the assistance. Now, even the poverty line is pitched at $15,200. Now, if you have one parent or 2 are working, you may be only making $14,000 or $15,000.
If both are working, they wouldn't be able to apply for the reimbursement. So, from a poverty alleviation point of view, kindergarten education should be free. For grassroots families, they really hope to benefit from free education. So you have to be very careful when you define what's meant by needy. When I look at the number of half-day KG places and whole-day places, the ratio is around 30-something% to 60%. And there's a difference because the poor families aren't able to make ends meet, or is it because of real, or does it reflect the real needs? Can you perform a territory-wide survey to assess the needs of the families? Can you see whether they need or prefer half-day or whole-day KG education? Can you do a survey? because when after you finish this study, you will see whether you can see the real needs of the families, and at that time you will receive a lot of criticisms. Secretary, thank you very much. I will try to address the question from a holistic view. Under the existing system, for families with financial difficulties, we will do our best to help. So this is the basic premise. And it also, the service also depends on preference of the parents. For parents from needy families who'd like to apply for KG education, they will be given assistance. And for whole day or long whole day kindergartens, we might need to increase the number of service places to deal with population growth. So these are the two major premises. Anything to add, Vice Chairman? Ms. Yip. Thank you, Chairman. The committee has not yet defined what's meant by in need, so I'd like to hear all your views. Overall speaking, the committee will provide assistance to needy families. So my recommendation is not to use the existing line. It's way too low. We'll relay your comments to the committee. Mr. Tommy Chung. I'd like to talk about paragraph 10, whether local non-profit making kindergartens should be covered. I think this view is rather outdated. I'm now enjoying a lot of concessions like the $2 MTR discount, and the MTR receives bonuses. You should take reference from other similar bodies. The Liberal Party supports the optimization of PEVS. We are against subsidizing only specific kindergartens because such practice is very dangerous. A long time ago, we converted a lot of primary and secondary schools into subvented schools, and we ran into a lot of problems. And around 20 years ago, the government had to change the subvention mode again in order to provide more choices for parents. And right now, you are depriving parents of a choice, and this is unviable. And this practice is just stupid. If you are saying that this body might can give dividends to its shareholders, that's why we are not going to subvent them. That's it doesn't make sense. I support a half-day kindergarten mode. And I understand that some parents need whole day or even long whole day services, but that's an issue on childcare. This is not something about education. We are talking about very young students. I think no expert in the world will tell you that they need to attend school all day long. And on the rental waiver, I think, again, this is stupid. This is something you really should think carefully about. A long time ago, the government was concerned that no one would operate schools in remote areas, and as such, the rents were waived. But now we shouldn't continue to give rental subsidy. And for non-profit organizations, the owners can still be receiving rents. So according to paragraph 10, you said you are not going to provide, you are not going to cover local private independent KGs. It doesn't make sense. And in paragraph 19b, you said the rents, you said the salaries of the teachers range from 8,300 to over 71,000. I think this is really hard to define. What would you define as high salary or low salary? When you go to a PI kindergarten, teachers can get a higher salary. So how can you secure the talents or manpower? Mr. Chung, do you need the Secretary to respond? No, because I don't think he would have anything to say. I'm like talking to a wall. Vice Chairman, I think you've noted his comment, right? Mrs. Regina Yip. And this subcommittee to study the implementation of free KG education, the target seems to be providing free KG education. But I think the starting point is rather wrong. I think a lot of parents don't mind paying as long as they secure the KG education they want. And for residents of the Northern District, they have to go all the way to Sha Tin, and yet they cannot secure a place because there are no kindergartens near where they live. And for the Free Kindergarten Education Committee, are you saying that you can solve the problem by giving money to the parents? If you are just trying to give money to the parents, just like the PEVS scheme, it doesn't help improve the quality of kindergartens in the long term. So I'd like the government to elaborate on your thinking. Mrs. Yip, I hope you don't mind. I think you, yeah, I understand you've retired. Is this committee headed by Dr. Cheng? And since this committee contains retired staff, are you going to be very bureaucratic in the way you work? Thank you very much. I want to address 2 points. First, free kindergarten education. There are a lot of voices in the community, and some people are angling for free kindergarten education. Under the current PVS mode for participants and non-participants, we see that a lot of parents are willing to pay out of their own pockets to purchase different kinds of services, but most of them expect free KG education. So this is the basic premise. When we draw up our policy, through this study, we have to define what is meant by free education. I think the scopes of learning and teaching would be incorporated into the scope of free services. So that's the initial view of the subcommittee. And we are happy that Mrs. Yip has volunteered her time to help us. She is very experienced and knowledgeable in the kindergarten sector and education, and she has helped tremendously with our work. And her focus is always on participation and consultation. And in the last month or so, the committee chairman and vice chairman have communicated with a lot of stakeholders in the society, and she has contributed a lot. I stress that her work is purely voluntary and she's not paid. Anything to add from Mrs. Yip? My work is to assist our chairman, Dr. Cheng, and my role is to coordinate matters under this committee. We have 5 working groups under the committee, and my role is really to coordinate the different working groups. I do not take part in the discussions of the working groups. Vice Chairman. Well, we have 2 vice chairmen here, so I guess you're referring to me, right? When I look at the paper, in Part A, it's about this policy and proposed scope of free KG education. So we are trying to define the scope of free KG education. So this is an area we have to define. And in paragraph 7, and our scope is children aged 3 to 6, and then we talk about school fee. And for paragraph 9, the paper says that the scope of coverage should be on half-day KG places. It seems that the committee's target right now is for half-day kindergartens, and in Part B, the paper covered whole day and long whole day KGs. So how does the committee distinguish between the support given to HD and WD or LWD KGs? We are talking about families with where both the parents are working. How do we align it with our population policy? This is a very important issue. And in paragraph 9, and only half-day service is covered. What about WD and LWD kindergartens? So what are the roles of these kindergartens in the committee's policy? Are they out of the scope covered by the policy, or do they have specific roles to play? Can you elaborate more on that? I'd like to stress that free kindergarten education includes children aged 3 to 6 who are in need of quality KG education. So that's our basic stance. I've stressed a lot of times that most kindergartens operate on half-day modes, and this is the standard adopted by many countries. And I understand that different schools have different modes of teaching and services provided, but I'd like to stress that HD, WD, and LWD kindergartens all contribute to the diversity of kindergarten education in Hong Kong. So in our discussion, they all play important roles. So we don't want people to think that we are only focusing on half-day kindergartens. We are not ignoring WD and LWD KGs because they have very important roles to play in our society.
So what we have to study is to look at the manpower structure, the mode of operation, the philosophy and so on of the whole day and half day kindergarten education. A lot of stakeholders from the industry are also involved. There are newspaper reports recently. I must emphasize that the 3 different modes are playing important roles. Right, I have the list here. Mr. Kenneth Chen, Anne Zhang, Helena Wong, Fernando Zhang, Ma Fong Kwok, and myself. Mr. Kenneth Chen. Madam Chair, I'm not sure whether I should say this, and the Vice Chairman, Mr. Ip Kin Yun, put a follow-up question regarding the 15-year free education. I think ultimately we have to talk about whether it is genuinely free education. Now, when you think of free education, we think of full subsidy. We have been saying the same thing with the concerned organizations. We have to put the emphasis on the development of the children. However, in the committee, they are making a distinction between different kindergartens. Now, what concerns me is the secretary is saying that there is no preconceived ideas, and they're keeping an open mind, and he said the report will be submitted by the middle part of next year. Now, this free 15-year education is not discussed for the sake of discussion. C.Y. Leung has already talked about this. Now, what we have to discuss is how do we deal with the half-day, full-day, long whole day, and PI, or private independent kindergartens. Now, let me come back to the fundamental issue with the Secretary here. Now, we are talking about policy. At the same time, we have to talk about the timetable. There is no point talking about having a liberal system because by the time you leave your post, we will be no nearer to a conclusion. And we may need C.Y. Dong to take over and start the talk all over again. Timetable, resources, how much money do you have? I think we have to put this to the Secretary. With regard to the kindergarten education, let's say it takes up $2 billion, a minuscule portion of the GDP. The world over, there is a yardstick of 1%, whether you like it or not. Now, given the vast pool of resources, should we do something about it with proper funding? Now, you're not talking about this in specific terms. The policy is really airy-fairy. You don't have the timetable. You don't have the specific resources. At the end of the day, we may need to go down the legislative path. And there are legislative issues to grapple with. Now, with legislating, you need to consider the time frame. So for these 4 areas, policy, which is subject to further discussion, what about resources? Does the government have an idea as to how much or more are you going to devote to KG education? Double it, triple it, or what? What about timetable? Are you confident that you would be able to get this done before you leave your post, including the legislation as an accountability official? Do you have any idea? It's not a question of farming out the job to Mrs. Yip or Mr. Moses Cheng. Now, in 2 years' time, you may leave your post. And what's going to happen? Secretary, thanks very much for the question. In terms of timetable, I've already said very clearly in my introduction that I am confident that the committee will be able to submit a report to the administration by mid next year. And on controversial issues, we may need more scientific statistics, and the 3 consultants are making their final effort to get the job done. Now, this is a part and parcel of the whole report. Now, if we can submit a report by the middle part of next year, and we said that this is a priority area within the SAR administration, we will certainly conduct a consultation, and we will conduct an analysis with a view to practical implementation. We've made it very clear. Now, you mentioned the resources. In kindergarten education, there are a number of elements which are important. Remuneration is one of them. The other important aspect is the rental. Now, what is the standard or optimum physical accommodation for the kindergartens? Now, all these are important subjects. We did conduct studies on these various subjects, and we set great store by the resources. So we hope that we will be able to have the analysis on those areas. So the committee is working full steam ahead to get on with the analysis. By the time the data become available, we will have the clearer picture, and then we will look at the resources that would be required to match the situation. Now, you asked me for some ballpark figures. It would not be fair to the committee, because if I ring fence the resources, then I'll be limiting the work of the committee. So we keep an open mind, and we hope that we will be able to have a high quality, sustainable kindergarten education. Well, Madam Chair, you don't have the timetable or the resources, and this is making me very concerned. I'll follow up later. Dr. N. Chung, Madam Chair, in 1965, we had the compulsory free education rolled out. There was the white paper issued, and according to the white paper, the intention was to allow every single child to receive education, and the fees would be affordable to society and the parents. In other words, if the parents are unable to afford the fees, then the government should step in and help. So many years on, now we are talking about free education for secondary school as well, and we are looking right now at extending this to KG education. The idea basically is to help those families that cannot afford the ever more expensive KG education. Now, even for kindergartens in housing estates, the fees can be anything up to $3,000. We welcome the administration's initiative to launch the voucher scheme, the PEVS scheme. The time is rather limited, and I don't think the Secretary would be able to give me an answer within such a short time. I hope that the Secretary would give us some further reply in writing. What is the ultimate objective of this initiative? Shouldn't we consider the fact that we have to use the taxpayers' money on those who are needy? Now, my colleagues put very good questions, like Mr. Tenka Pil, should we look at it from the poverty alleviation point of view? Mr. Tommy Jung approached this from the other perspective. If we want to alleviate poverty, we have to go the whole hog. And this may run counter to the assistance offered to education. So I think we have to get the overriding objective clear in our mind. Some went so far as to say that we should offer rental assistance if the rent is excessively high. I think we are getting ourselves very, very confused. Now, if you locate yourself in a high rental area, then I'm sure you know that the expenses would be high. Now, like free primary education, is it possible for kindergartens to be incorporated within the primary education or primary schools? Secretary, Madam Chair, the overriding objective of free kindergarten education is not to have a situation like in the past that we have varying levels of kindergarten education. We don't want to see KG education, which is dominated by rote learning and loads of homework, and they would like to get this very clear. Now, moving in this direction, how much more resources would be required? In the process, we have conducted a lot of research, like the basic area that would be required for KG education, and we don't really want the KG, the kindergartens, to be too cramped. And second, we should enhance the qualifications of the KG teachers. And also for non-Chinese speaking students, I would like to incorporate them into the equation. That is one of the overriding objectives. Second, it's not. I mean, it's rare to have such a chance for us to have such a global view taken of KG education. We don't really want to be limited by the resources. There's some parents would like to have more room for diverse range of choices. I must emphasize that a lot of the kindergarten bodies told us that they would like to have more flexibility and more room for maneuver. So it's not simply one single model that we are talking about. So we have to discuss with various stakeholders. You have to speed up, Secretary. There are certain controversial areas like the profit-making and non-profit-making kindergartens. We'd like to strive to achieve a consensus.
Dr. N. Chang, you have to wait for the second round. Secretary, did you cover profit-making and private KGs? Yes, we cover everything. I visited some of these KGs and they shared their views as well, so they are also under consideration. Next, Ms. Helena Wang. Chairman, we all eagerly anticipate 15-year free KG education we've been talking about for years, and we wondered why free education didn't cover free KG education. And the Democratic Party certainly supports this initiative. So I think the idea is everyone should begin at the same starting point. To be fair to everyone, and right now you are trying to solve the problem with the PEVS scheme. We have a few concerns. First, it's the planning. For young kids, most parents would prefer to choose a kindergarten near where they live. And but sometimes rent becomes an issue. So I think you should think about co-location of kindergartens and primary schools. So, well, personally, I studied kindergarten and primary school at the same premises, and everything went very smooth. So I think this is something you should think about. You can talk to the buildings department and see whether space can be accommodated at housing estates for kindergartens. And the second question is the teachers. And according to the paper, the range of their salaries is very, very wide, from about $7,000 to $80,000. Mr. Tommy Chung is against drawing up a standard range for the salaries, but in my opinion, if you are going to give one-off funds to these KGs, I think this is something you must think about. I met some teachers earlier, and they are against a lump sum grants, and the employers can be flexible, but at the same time, a lot of the teachers are receiving very unsatisfactory salaries or unfair salaries. I'm not sure. If the level of rents would be linked to the salaries, and at the end, teaching quality might be compromised. But you can imagine that if you are only willing to pay $8,300, what kind of teachers, what kind of quality teachers are you able to attract? I think the key is to provide decent remuneration to teachers, and you have to give them recognition. They are not at the bottom of the hierarchy. They do not become teachers only because they cannot do anything else. And on the whole day and long whole day modes, you mentioned that some KGs operate on whole day and some on long whole day. So we cannot see the distribution because there's no breakdown provided on the paper. We agree that even for long whole day KGs, the students shouldn't spend all day studying. I think there's a need to merge KGs and childcare centers, and I think you have to discuss with the Labor and Welfare Bureau on how you can tackle the demand for WD and LWD kindergartens. And the third point is the variety of KGs. Some parents want to know that if they don't choose subvented KGs, can the vouchers be returned to them so that they can use it on other KGs? Yes, we've considered all the points you mentioned. If time allows, we can talk about the details. Next, Mr. Fernando Chang. Chairman, I think what Dr. Kenneth Chen mentioned was a very fundamental problem. Is this scheme going to, or is this plan going to drag on, or after a report is submitted in the middle of next year, work will really begin? I think this is the most worrying point. And what is the scope of your plan? When you refer to free KG education, does it only apply to half-day KGs, or are you going to look at WD and LWD KGs? And I'm most concerned with students with special educational needs. Recently, a study was conducted by the HKIED, and in the study, they conducted a study among 3 to 6 year olds to see how many of them have special education needs, and the results show that around 15% have special education needs. Right now, only around 12 to 13,000 students are receiving help, and the rest are just hidden away from us. They are not even being identified. Early identification and support is crucial to SEN students. So, and we have to make sure that it's being executed and implemented. And when we talk about implementation, it's not just the job of the Education Bureau. And the services are actually provided by the Social Welfare Department and supported by other governmental departments. For PVS, do you have a policy for integrated education, and who is in charge of this policy, and how are you going to utilize your resources? Right now we have 3 types of centers for these students, and the queues are very long, and students have to wait for around a year and a half, so this is disastrous. And the hospital authority also has a role to play. And under these 2 premises, how can they be implemented under the 15-year free education plan? In the past, after child centers are converted to schools, but as you know, the queues are again very, very long. I know you have 5 working groups, and one of them is in charge of this area. So, but I still want to know whether you have any initial views on what I mentioned on the issues of resources, continuity of integrated education, the connections with primary schools, etc. Secretary, your views? Since time is limited, I'm going to address 2 points. First, the preschool early identification and support. Mr. Chung answered the same question in a meeting last week, and the Secretary for Labor and Welfare has already answered your question, so I'm not going to repeat what he said. And second, we do see a need. Around a year and a half ago, I mentioned to Mr. Chung that the 5th working group is in charge of this area. And we do have foundation training for primary and secondary school teachers for SEN students. Before we, since training is not yet extended to kindergarten teachers, we have to think about how this is carried out in primary and secondary schools. And we've had discussions on this previously. Anything to add, Mr. Sip? Have you discussed this aspect among the working groups? Yes, the 4th working group actually discussed this issue. In our discussions, we think that for children from 3 to 6, early identification and support are crucial. We completely agree with this principle. And in our working groups, we have representatives from different government departments. So in terms of early identification, we have to adopt a dual approach. And the hospital authority and Bureau for Health must work together. And in terms of training for teachers, we will also enhance our efforts so that our teachers, our kindergarten teachers can identify SEN students as soon as possible. And in terms of support, we've also discussed it among our working groups. And we are looking at 3 issues. No matter who the service provider is, we have to provide care from 3 fronts. And one is the care for the 2 students. And a lot of students may need emotional, behavioral, muscular, or communication support. And second, we have to take care of the parents. First of all, we have to encourage parents to accept the fact that some students have SEN, and they have to know how to take care of their kids with SEN at home. and they have to correct some of the behaviors of their kids. And third, for schools or kindergartens with SEN students, we have to support the service providers as well. We have to let them know the characteristics of SEN children and how teachers can adjust their teaching strategies. And these SEN students really need to be supported both at home and in school. So these are the approaches we are going to adopt for SEN students. And some service providers are trial testing some approaches or methods of dealing with SEN students. Next, Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. It's the first time I take part in this meeting, and when I look at the paper, we still have about half a year. But having gone through the paper, I don't really see the general direction of the government or the general direction of the committee. We have 5 working groups, we have focus groups, and we are discussing various arrangements. I'm not sure whether the government had mentioned the position, the fundamental position on free KG education, whether education should be provided for free and other supplementary services like childcare services, integrated education, auxiliary services. I'm not sure whether all these services are provided for free. Well, for me, these are not the core services. I really want to know what's the government's ultimate aim is. And in order to achieve this goal, how much resources can we really invest into free KG education? And we are talking about auxiliary services like childcare services, and how much can we afford for those auxiliary services? And for students with SEN, for example, students who require integrated education, how much resources can we afford? So what are the government's estimations? I think these are very important indicators. Without these indicators, I'm afraid that the work of this committee will be in vain, and at the end of the day, we still cannot find out or identify which are the most important areas. And how do you establish your priorities? Where would you put your money? If we don't have enough money, what are our priorities? So this is something I want to know.
Obviously, with such a short space of time, I wonder how the committee is going to get on with this. That there are issues that are controversial. We have less than 6 months' time to play with. Will there be any further consultation on the stakeholders to solicit their views? If not, why not? Thank you. Secretary, thanks very much for the question. I'd like to invite the Vice Chairman to elucidate further the objective of the free KG education. I'd just like to emphasize that we'd like to have a 15 free education, and including 3-year kindergarten education. I remember about a year and a half ago, I said that if you ask 12 people, you have 12 and a half answers regarding kindergarten education. Now, there are certain principles and overriding objectives. I can reserve this till later. Perhaps I can defer to the Vice Chairman regarding free kindergarten education, what this is all about. Vice Chairman or the Deputy Secretary. Now, we have seen development in this regard, and the kindergarten is all about compulsory education because of the diversity, and from the statistics we gathered, the kindergarten is different from primary and secondary education. For primary and secondary, we approve the number of teachers, whereas in kindergarten it would be different. And let's say the ratio is 1 to 15, and in some kindergartens they have 1 to just a couple of students. If you want to maintain quality KG education, we cannot mandate them to keep to the 1 to 15 teacher-student ratio. We have to appreciate that we should strike a proper balance. In Para 18, we made it clear that we will look at the financial implications. We have to respect parental choice, and we have to be concerned about the affordability for the parents before we come up with a balanced choice. So we will include the fundamental operation, the learning on the part of the students. Now, there may be some kindergartens that would specify a ratio of 1 to 5 in terms of teacher-student ratio. Then the parents will have to shell out extra for that. We have spelled that out in the paper itself. So the coverage of the free kindergarten education will be delineated. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that some members suggested that we should adopt a similar system to the primary and secondary schools. Now, let's say remuneration. Is the remuneration structure applicable for primary and secondary education, applicable to KG education? Let me spend just 1 or 2 minutes on this. For primary and secondary schools, we do have the planning. Under the policy, each student will be given a place, and we do have the threshold for the creation of a class. They have to meet the threshold before they would be able to create a class. And if they fall short of the threshold, there would be teachers that surpass the requirements. And we also have a very stringent allocation system, which is done in accordance with stringent requirements. So can this various system be applicable to KG education? All these has to be considered. Mr. Tam Yu-jung. Madam Chair, last month I met some KG principals and teachers. There were dozens of them coming to meet me. And they said that of the most concern to them in the review exercise would be the remuneration for KG teachers, and they hope that there would be a salary scale. They hope that in the days to come there should be kindergarten teachers who are degree holders. They understand that nothing can be achievable overnight. According to the paper, in September 2013, there was a research conducted which showed that the salaries range between $8,300 to $70,000, and understand that these are extreme figures on both ends. But you must have some idea about the average remuneration for KG teachers. When you formulate the salary scale, would there be any specific difficulties? I think they are speaking in one voice in this regard. If we cannot satisfy their demand, the whole review will be jeopardized. And I am a little bit concerned about it because of this. I do appreciate their concerns. I mean, even if I were a KG teacher, I would make a similar demand. So I'm wondering what consideration the Secretary has. The paper doesn't really address the problem at all. You're merely highlighting the different views from different parties. At the end of the day, you have to address this particular issue. Secretary, thanks very much, Mr. Tam, for the question. Now we have the focus groups, we have the interviews, and a lot of comments of this nature have been made. Now the salary ranges between $8,500 to $71,000. Now there are suggestions of a salary scale, but there are certain other people who are suggesting that we should have a salary range instead of the incremental pay scale. Now there can be teachers who are not just good at languages, but they can also teach music and piano, and so instead of having a salary scale, we should have a consultant that would be tasked to conduct a study. Now the committee is still at work, and I don't think it would be right for me to talk too much about it. But as far as the industry is concerned, they are talking about similar things. They're talking about a whole lot of different options. All right, it's my turn to put questions. I think the 15-year free education includes the pre-primary education, the 3-year kindergarten education. This is very much the undertaking of the Chief Executive. We have a diverse KG sector. Certainly it would be rather challenging for us to achieve free KG education given this background. But whatever we do, we have to enhance the quality of KG education in Hong Kong. Honestly, we do have a pretty high standard. Now all of them are privately run. A lot of parents favor certain KGs because of their high quality. I think when the KGs are subsidized with taxpayers' money, we have to narrow the gap between the various kindergartens in terms of quality. We must admit that some of them are doing pretty well, and their places are very much sought after. Now, under the voucher scheme, and indeed there are certain sponsoring bodies that have more resources. Indeed, the kindergartens, the chain kindergartens are really doing better than the small-time kindergartens. I think the most important thing in this exercise is to narrow the gap in quality between the different kindergartens, so that the teachers and the organizations don't have to worry about the dollar sign. Now, this is no new industry. Kindergartens have been around for so long. Mr. Secretary, you said that as a start, you are subsidizing the 3-year or 3-hour kindergarten education. But what about kindergartens that are offering services for more than 3 hours? They have been around, and there is a demand for them. Now, the idea is to narrow the gap between various kindergartens. I would like to enhance their quality. If you don't consider incorporating the kindergartens that are offering services for more than 3 hours, then it would make it more difficult for them to survive after the launch of this scheme. I've met a number of organizations. I'm sure that they have been talking to a lot of counselors and stakeholders. First, this will help the parents. Second, these are organizations promoted by the administration, and they exist because of the government's urging to help the working parents. Now you are merely, as a starter, covering kindergarten education that would be no more than 3 hours. And like Mr. Tenkapu said, it is a very stringent requirement. Now, you said you're keeping your options open, and I do hope that you would have regard to the historical background. These long whole-day kindergartens have been around for so long, and the government has been making them happen. So other than the 3-hour service KG education that you are subsidizing, I hope that you might wish to consider subsidizing the long whole-day KG as well. So will there be extra subsidy for the long whole-day KG? Will you be talking to the LWB? Secretary. Thanks very much, Madam Chair. I think you've got a point there, and this is the very part that I'd like to emphasize and clarify. Now, most of the KGs are half-day kindergartens. Now, for whole-day and long-whole-day kindergartens, they are playing a significant social function, so they have to be supported in certain ways. We have to discuss in greater depth about the mode of subsidy. Now, these long-term and long whole-day kindergartens, the demand will be ever greater in future.
The modes and manpower requirements of WD and LWD kindergartens require special consideration, and that's why we have decided to shelve the discussions until the third quarter. But we will certainly go in this direction, and we will conduct detailed analyses, and perhaps the PAS can supplement. For subvention for long whole-day kindergartens, all along we have been analyzing some statistics. We can share some key figures with you, with members of this committee. As the chairman said, and long whole-day kindergartens were born because of our policy, and objectively speaking, if students receive school fee reimbursement, it means that they have they're worse off financially, and we can see that half the students at the moment are receiving school fee reimbursement, and the other half either did not apply for reimbursement or that they are not qualified. So that's the situation right now. And we are analyzing school fees of different kindergartens as well. And we want to see whether there's any difference between these KGs and normal KGs. And we see that LWD kindergartens charge lessly lower school fees than other KGs. And the highest level charge is around $16,000 per student per year. And when we consider these LWD kindergartens, these figures would allow us to compare. And can these figures be shared with the subcommittee? Yes, no problem. They can be shared after the meeting. Next, Ms. Sidho. Thank you, Chairman. I couldn't attend the first meeting of this subcommittee because of other commitments. I understood that that meeting, the first meeting, was very short, and 9 scopes of work were discussed. I'm not sure whether the administration knew the 9 items we wanted to discuss. And having been here for more than an hour, I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, but well, we have been discussing this issue for a long time, and a lot of views and comments weren't new anymore. But as you know, at the end of the day, time is limited, and since we have to cover 9 items, I think the administration is just going circles. This is something we shouldn't tolerate, and it's not clear whether they are committed to the work. And this is not the first meeting anymore. So should we dedicate at least one meeting to every item on our agenda? And for instance, the issue of premises is a very complicated matter. And some members mentioned the idea of co-location, rents, and so on. For each of these aspects, the administration has to provide a lot of information and data to facilitate our discussions. And for the Committee on Free KG Education, apart from Mrs. Ip, this committee should send other reps to this meeting. And they should come up with a report at the end. And after many rounds of discussions and negotiations, we should come up with some recommendations which are to be implemented by the administration. If we continue at this rate, if we are just repeating ourselves again and again, I don't think we can come up with the recommendations by the deadline. And the issue cannot be wrapped up in the next 1 or 2 years. I think we can follow up on that later. Any response from the Secretary on the question raised by Ms. Ho? I understand Ms. Ho's concern. I hope that we have more time for each individual point or item. I was here a year ago, and here I am again. I also thought about how much progress we've made. We are focusing our energies on a few key issues, and for the other issues, we will continue discussions later on. We are not ignoring them. Chairman, the Secretary is not answering my question. My question was very, very clear. In our first meeting, was the administration aware that we have 9 key issues for discussion? Right now, you've responded to 4 of them, and in my opinion, these responses were just scratching the surface. There weren't any concrete information. So I hope, Chairman, I hope you can stop the administration from repeating themselves again and again. We need to see in future meetings what kind of information we require from the administration, and I think myself and our members will write to the administration to ask for more information, and I hope the administration can actually address our questions. Even if we don't ask any questions, you should proactively offer more information and figures. We should be more efficient in discussing those 9 items. Of course, the committee can continue to communicate with the sector. Right now, the district councillors would know the needs of the teachers and students, and we should try to gather information from different channels in order to come up with better plans. I think this paper you shared with us today is truly unsatisfactory, and I think the chairman also has a duty to make sure to stop the administration from repeating themselves. I hope you understand that time is limited on our side, so we agree that items A to D are on top of our priority list, and as such, the Secretariat requested the administration to provide information for items A to D first. And as you know, the committee appointed by the Secretary is working very hard, and as such, members from the committee were invited here today. And since the report is coming up soon, hopefully members can provide comments for the administration. But please be assured that we will continue to request the administration to provide more information to us. So I hope that the public can understand our considerations. So a second round of questions. Chairman, let me continue. On the issue of school premises, this is a complicated matter. Sorry, you only have 4 minutes, but you spoke for 7 minutes. But you spoke for 7 minutes. Usually, I wouldn't allow members to supplement. I was looking at the clock. You spent 7 minutes. I'll be very brief. For the issue of school premises, you only have 4 paragraphs. This is unsatisfactory. The second round, Mrs. Regina Yip, Dr. Kenneth Chen, Mr. Fernando Chang, and Mr. Wong Kok Heng. So I suggest that members have 3 minutes each. Mrs. Regina Yip. According to paragraph 6 of the paper, the vision of preschool education, the 5 principles are uniqueness, equity, equality, diversity, and sustainability. These cannot be achieved by merely providing free education. You cannot expect free education to solve the queries of all the parents and forget about these principles. Then it's impossible. Can the Education Bureau explain whether you tend to just provide a lump sum grants, just like the PEVS scheme? And second, you seem to draw the line based on the number of teaching hours for half day, whole day, etc. For a long whole day education, it's more about childcare, basically. A lot of parents have to work, and some parents are overly concerned with their kids, and they send they send their kids to many classes, to language classes, etc. From an education standpoint, perhaps 3 hours of learning would be adequate. But in order to promote the idea of family friendliness or equity, 3 hours is not enough. You cannot say that you only have money for 3 hours and that's all you're going to do. Thank you, Ms. Yip, for your question. Perhaps Mr. Yip can talk about the thinking behind the 3-year line. Mrs. Yip. One of the working groups under the committee looks at the objective of kindergarten education. I think the key is to train the students and promote confidence, the ability to take care of themselves, adapt to changes, etc. So the key is balanced growth for children, and we have to provide balanced training. And in order to achieve these objectives, would half-day or even whole-day education be enough? We looked at the situation in Hong Kong, and we also looked at what other countries are currently doing. And we realized that to achieve this goal, half-day education would be adequate. Statistically, there's no big difference between half-day and whole-day KG education. If you think kindergartens have other objectives, or if we have to consider other policies, then it's another issue. But I'm focusing on the objective of KG education. Apart from basic subvention for half-day KG education, the committee thinks that some families might need to send their kids to whole-day or long whole-day schools. And for these families, we would suggest that the administration provide additional assistance. So that's the initial view of the committee so far.
As to the specific details, we are happy to listen to what members have to say. My question remains unanswered. Are you going to just earmark the funding for the parents alone? Secretary. As to the amount of resources that will be required and the mode of operation, these are being considered. It's not a question of earmarking the funding to parents. That is making it too simplistic. Like, for instance, if a rental assistance is needed, how are you going to go about doing it? All right, Mr. Kenneth Chen. Madam Chair, following on from my conclusion in the first round, however hard we try to force Mr. Ng's hands, he would be hard put to it to tell us the timetable regarding the free kindergarten education, and that it would involve the legislative amendments. Now you need to plan for the accommodation, and the government has to fork out the resources, and we are still debating the half-day, whole-day, and long whole-day kindergarten education. I get a feeling that the government is ill-prepared maybe one of the reasons is that the committee is not done with their work, and the government cannot talk too much about it. But I think that the Secretary cannot evade his responsibility here. The committee has the responsibility to scan the landscape, as it were. We have 900 or so kindergartens, and most of them are non-profit making, and they are on the voucher scheme. And how much more does the parents have to pay, and the number of teachers, the size of the accommodation, and so on. On the other end of the scale, there are elite kindergarten schools, and they can't be bothered about this free kindergarten scheme, like the primary, secondary schools, and so on. And that's some scanning of the landscape. And I would have thought that we would have a discussion like this today. And today, we are rehashing the previous arguments about a year or so ago, and they're talking about all the concerns and so on. What's the point of having a discussion like this? I'm not talking about you, Madam Chair. The Secretary has the responsibility here. You ought to ask what CY Leung has in mind. Now, it's no good to sloganeer like this. If CY Leung has this in mind, you have to ask him what exactly he has in mind. Now, if CY Leung is serious about a full subsidy for kindergarten education, then you have the authority to talk to all these different bureaus. It's difficult to balance different parties. Now, Mr. Tommy Cheung said that you just give the parents the money, and they can handle it. Some might hope that we want to have a full subsidy in a way the Scandinavian countries are doing. So, Mr. Secretary, when you come back next time, tell us the philosophy, how you're going to go about launching the 15-year free education. I think the government officials are stuck in the middle, and this is not what an accountability official should be doing. Secretary, I think right in front of us is the fact that we are serious about the matter. We've spent $150,000 or $200,000 in subsidy, and there is certain pressure on the fees, so we are increasing the voucher by $2,500. So it shows that every step of the way we are making our intention very clear, which is backed up by our action. That's by way of a background. Vice Chairman, Mr. Ip, Madam Chair, I think Ms. Sit Ho and Mr. Kenneth Chen made really eminently good comments, very objective. I think we have to look at the way forward and how we're going to go about achieving what we set out to achieve. 2 years on, where are we, and what difficulties are we facing now? Now, in the paper, it seems to me that we have to wait until the consultancy studies are completed before we know anything about it, like the physical accommodation and the remuneration. In terms of accommodation, it is a rather unique issue. Now, for demand for teachers and non-teaching staff and the remuneration, this is the core part of the issue. If we are waiting for the consultancy before a decision is taken, then a lot of things cannot be decided right now. Now, my question then is, what brief do you have for the consultancy, and how soon are they going to come up with a report? Can you give us the information after the meeting? When you approach the consultants, you must have a brief for them. What sort of areas should they cover, and what sort of deliverables should they come up with? Can you give us all this information later on? The second issue is that in the community out there, people are very concerned about certain rumors that the government is inclined towards a lump sum grant regarding the kindergarten education. Is it going to be the case? Now, if you offer a lump sum grant, I think Mr. Fernando Cheung is well aware that this will have implications on the whole landscape and also the remuneration, and the implications will be exceedingly profound. The welfare sector is acutely aware of the issue. Is it the way to go? Secretary, you mentioned three things. 2 years on, where are we? Now, not 2 years yet. It's only a year or so. We're not there yet. Second, about the consultants, we invite open tender, and we gave all the information. Now, you talked about a lump sum grant. As of now, I have not received any proposals in this regard, although this is in the newspaper, and that's by way of a clarification. So, Mr. Secretary, you will make available the consultancy brief after the meeting, would you? All right, Dr. Fernando Cheung. Madam Chair. Well, we talked about the current situation. The Secretary said there would be discussion, but discussion has been going on for about a year or so. The current situation is absolutely disastrous. You have identified half of the kindergartens, and you are subsidizing half of those that you have identified. Now, in this golden era, you will be subsidizing about a quarter of the total number of kindergartens. That it is an important period of a child's development in terms of cognitive abilities. It would be very difficult to make up for any inadequacies if you miss the opportunity. Now, we've been discussing this for so long. That this is an interdepartmental thing. In terms of SENs and NCS and non-Cantonese speaking and students with special education needs, how are you going to deal with these minority students? Will there be an improvement that will be achieved for them? I'd like to defer to Mrs. Yip. There is a subcommittee on this very subject. Mrs. Yip, please. Madam Chair, thank you. The committee is aware of the fact that this is an interdepartmental initiative. We agree that we have to have early identification and timely support. In terms of support, we hope that the government will increase the level of support for the SEN students. We hope that once they're identified, they should be given support. Second, about the mode of delivery, we hope that this can be enhanced. Dr. Fernando Cheung mentioned the IP and the ETC or the EXS. The students, the parents at the schools, the kindergartens will have to be looked after, and the level of support for the three parties may vary, but we have to increase or enhance the quality of the service. The committee is recommending that there should be more to be done in the way of teacher training. The teachers should be equipped with better knowledge about how SEN students should be looked after. There should be more room for the teachers to further their studies in this regard. If I may, very briefly, Madam Chair, the two services that you mentioned, there is a long queue for them. It would be a good idea to increase the services, but if you don't make a start now, and in 2 years' time, you're trying to increase the service, now the queue is exceedingly long at the present moment. How are you going to go about addressing the issue? Secretary? We answered the similar question in LegCo. I think Mr. Matthew Cheung said already that there is a plan to increase the number. And he also said that teacher training would be of paramount importance. If the teachers don't have any support for training, then it would be rather difficult to achieve that. Third, there is a serious shortage of professionals in this regard in Hong Kong. We appreciate members' point. So in terms of quantity, in terms of quality and the mode of delivery, we'll try to think about it. Now, this subject falls outside the scope of our today's discussion. Perhaps the administration might wish to make available a paper for further discussion next time. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, Madam Chair. I think it's important for us to have a discussion today. They are coming to the home stretch of their study. Now we have the Vice Chairman of the committee here. It is a good platform, a positive platform for us to engage in discussion. I mean, I wouldn't make it as negative as some other members make it out to be. Paragraphs 19 to 21 of the paper, there's part D. Now my question is, has the administration considered having launched the free kindergarten education, whether the kindergarten teachers would turn professional? I know that this cannot be achieved overnight, but are you going to turn the teaching force professional? According to the sector, 1/3 of the KG teachers are degree holders. In the long run, will the administration consider making the KG teaching profession a professional career? Now, for those KG teachers that don't have any degrees, they have something to aspire for. They can study to achieve a better academic qualification. At the end of the day, shall we achieve the objective of having all the KG teachers degree holders? Are you going to consider some along those lines? I defer to the Deputy Secretary. I must emphasize that this is one of the most important areas in the entire study. We're not merely talking about KG teachers. We're talking also about principals and also supervisors.
PAS. On the enhancing the professionalism of kindergarten teachers, this is something we are very focused on. Kindergarten education depends on a team of educators, and in the past year, we established a committee on the professional training of teachers, and we will report our latest work progress in our next meeting for the education panel. And enhancing the teachers' professional levels is one of our key areas of work, and this committee consists of different experts. And on the requirements for all KG teachers to hold degrees, and I've been involved in the relevant discussions. And basically, we have two sides. Some school principals are against the idea that all KG teachers must hold degrees. And this would affect the implementation of PEVS. And principals are required to hold degrees. And if kindergarten teachers have to work and study at the same time, it would have a negative impact on the entire sector, and it would increase the workload of the teachers. And they advise us to be careful on making any changes to the qualifications of the teachers. Since we have different voices on this issue, the administration should perform studies and assessments. Since there are different voices from the sector, some people told me that some people from the sector told me that they don't expect this requirement of having all KG teachers hold degrees. They don't consider this a short-term goal. We can implement it step by step. Is this something you will consider? Thank you very much for the question. I'm sure the committee is happy to conduct short-term, medium-term, and long-term studies on the viability of this requirement. And now it's my turn. First of all, I do think this meeting is necessary because the committee is going to finalize their report very soon, so we should provide some comments. And apart from the free 3-hour KG education, are you going to help the whole day and long whole day KGs? This is also a concern of the sector. Are you going to give them certain resources so that they can remain competent in the market? Thank you, Chairman. I completely understand that WD and LWD KGs have their social values. We will use other means to assist with their development in order to ensure that they meet certain quality levels. As Mr. Tam Yu-chung said, the sector told us that they do not understand why the administration refused to extend the subvention mode of secondary schools to primary schools and kindergartens. Can you explain the logic? As the PAS mentioned, we conducted analyses with the sector on the subvention mode of primary schools, and they were concerned with certain issues. First is the level of salaries. This is something which cannot be changed. And in terms of allocation of school places, parents also have a lot to say. And if they adopt a subvention mode, there are high requirements of the accounts keeping requirements, etc. So they do have some concerns. I don't think this answer is very convincing for the trade. I think a one-off grant is not acceptable because they don't feel secure. I hope you don't just extend the existing practice and think that a one-lump grant is the norm. Mr. Tam Yu-chung, the administration will complete its report by the middle of next year. After that, will there be any more room for discussion and revisions, or would it be that after the report is published, the administration will start allocating resources? So what's the situation? Thank you very much for the question. When the report is published by the committee, I will review the recommendations as soon as possible and identify the viable recommendations. And we will certainly have another round of final consultation, and after that we will begin implementation. Mr. Tam, since time is limited, please be brief. Do we continue our discussions, or should we wait until the report is out? What is your thinking? Well, I intended to leave 5 minutes at the end for discussion, but since time is limited, perhaps we will go to the second round first. Ms. Sit-Ho. Well, I'm most concerned with the issue of school premises. The expenditure of KGs represent a very big proportion of the total expenditure of KGs, and there are requirements on the venues, building heights, etc., and reviews, possible reviews will be done. So next time, can you share some information with us on the space requirements, building height requirements, etc.? How are you going to review such requirements? Are you going to relax or abolish them? What are your considerations? So I'm just asking for this information from the administration. Can you provide such papers? Sure. Secretary, you have 1 minute. Vice Chairman, you have 1 minute. Thank you, Chairman. I just want to confirm the administration's view for the one lump grants. You said you never received such recommendations, so does it mean that you never considered this lump sum grants? Do you agree that whole day and long whole day KGs have their social values and you will give them adequate support? The first question first. I used to work in the social welfare sector, and as I understand, I understand very well the features of a lump sum grants, and I've not heard any relevant discussions in this subcommittee, so I was just stating the facts, and I've not heard any discussions before. There have been a lot of discussions, but there were never any discussions of the lump sum grants. And second, and apart from half-day KGs, whole day and long whole day KGs also have very important social roles, and under this premise, they satisfy certain social functions, and as such, the premise of providing quality KG education, we would provide some appropriate support and assistance. The administration has also always stressed that the report will be published in the middle of next year, right? Is this still the case? Yes, I was promised that the report will be done by the middle of next year. So the next meeting will be held on the 17th of January. We will listen to comments from deputations, and we expect a lot of deputations, and please reserve the whole day for the meeting. And after that, we still have a few meetings before the committee publishes its report. So I'd like to hear the members' views on how we go about the next few meetings. I hope the committee can address all the 9 discussion items raised by the subcommittee so that deputations can give their views accordingly. If deputations have new issues to raise, we should remain open. If there are good views, we can even delve into some of the issues raised. We have invited deputations to give their comments online, and the scope of study was also published online, so the deputations should know our scope of discussion. Mr. Tam. Ms. Sitho said the government, the administration is taking us around the circles. It seems that we won't have any new information before the report comes out. So please consider whether we still need to have so many meetings. And we've listened to the views, some of the views from deputations, and I guess most of them, when they return, will simply reiterate what they've already said. So thank you very much for your comment, Ms. Ho. I understand that the committee is working already, but in the meantime, we should request more information from the administration. For example, let's come back to the issue of school premises. What kind of premises are chosen? Are they under rent, or are they located in housing estates? And we have to look at the population demographics, especially the northern districts. We need these figures and information so that we can we can give more concrete comments for the administration. So in the next half a year, I think the subcommittee should request for more information from the administration. So can the Secretariat take note, please? We have to finish before 4:30. The room must be used for the next meeting. So, Vice Chairman, we will discuss further with the Vice Chairman. So please, we will meet again on the 17th of January from 9 a.m. Thank you very much.